Hello and welcome to PhDemystified, the podcast for current and aspiring doctoral students. We're here once again to help make your doctoral journey more enjoyable.
That's right. Our goal is to throw some light and clarity on the mystifying aspects of academia. We want to break through some of the confusion and offer you a bit of guidance to make your journey through your doctoral studies better and hopefully more fun. I'm Dr. Julianne Burgess, Adjunct Professor at Brock University.
And I am William Ankoma, Assistant Professor of Education at St. Francis Xavier University. We are diverse folks with diverse perspectives, and we are also recent grads.
Yes, and today, on the subject of getting to the finish line, we're going to help you to defend your dissertation. The viva voce, or viva, or viva, whatever. We've heard it called all sorts of things. It is the oral defense. And when you think about it, it's just plain terrifying, isn't it?
It looks and sounds like it, but is it really?
It will surprise you because, as we discovered, it turned out to be a very enjoyable process.
Right.
So, some of the key takeaways from our experiences, we're going to talk about this great big milestone, the culmination of your PhD journey. We're going to talk about who will be at the defense, the format, and those dreaded questions. And really, how can you prepare? William, can you really prepare for this experience?
I guess you start preparing from day one when you are admitted, right?
Yeah.
But can you fully prepare? Nah.
You do your best. You do your best,
Yes.
but don't ignore it.
That's
It's
right.
the better prepared you are,
Mhm.
the better you'll feel going into it. So let's start with who's going to be there and what their responsibilities are. Well, first, you'll encounter the chair from graduate studies, usually. And this person, as chair of your defense, will be independent and impartial. They lead the process, which shouldn't last more than 3 hours, hopefully, 2 to 3 hours. Their responsibility is to ensure that questioning takes place in a fair and organized manner. It's common practice for the chair to compile notes on the revisions that you must do, and the note that's submitted first to your supervisor and committee following the oral defense.
Right.
Who else is there?
Yeah. The external examiner, of course.
Yes.
Yeah. This person is typically an expert with credibility and standing in your field. Therefore, someone you want to impress.
Yes. This is key. You want to impress the external examiner with
Right.
your knowledge.
Yeah. So read their work. As soon
Mhm.
as you get to know who the person is, read their work. Their first task before your defense will be to write a report on your dissertation and submit it to the institution and your supervisor. And of course, you will get a copy of that before your examination date is actually set.
Mhm. And they may be a little bit critical of your work, and that was my experience.
They have to be.
That's their job. That's their job. Don't be offended. That's their job.
Yeah, and then they will report on your performance at your defense itself too.
So, how are these examiners selected? Do you have any choice?
Yes, you do. You do. You can work with your supervisor about the names, right? Those you think can be. I'm talking about the external here, not the internal, right?
Yeah, my supervisor came up with the name for
Mhm.
the internal, and I don't feel like I had any say in the matter. I mean,
Mhm.
she told me about this
Mhm.
person, sounded like a good fit, so that
That
was
was it.
that.
Yep.
In my experience, we submitted three names between my
Right.
supervisor and myself. We came up with a list of three names of
Right.
people we thought would be suitable,
Mhm.
and then the university, someone within the faculty, contacts those people one at a time
Yeah.
to check
The
on their
admin person,
availability. Yes,
right?
that's right.
The admin
Yep.
person does that. On my part, we had the first three, and none of them accepted. So we had
Oh,
to go for the next three, so six, and none of them accepted.
wow.
And we had to go for the next No, I think I'm kidding here. The second batch, the second three, the sixth person accepted.
Wow.
Yes,
So
because I
that's
was my methodology and theory was a bit different. Appreciative inquiry.
hmm
Um, People are wired into deficit thinking, and I was using this strength-based methodology and theoretical framework, and so they just didn't understand it, I suppose.
right, right, and maybe didn't want to or didn't have the time.
Right.
And so when you're having this discussion with your supervisor about who the external examiner should be, you want to think about how their work aligns with yours. And I would suggest to concentrate, focus on the most important facets of your own work
Mhm.
and the alignment. So my external was a senior scholar in literacy and posthumanism.
Mhm.
She was not an arts based scholar.
Mhm.
Now, someone who I also had considered, another name on the list, was primarily an arts based scholar in the field of literacy studies.
Mhm.
So, in some ways, perhaps she might have been a better fit. Both people were perfect options for that position. And ultimately, as in your experience, you go with whomever is available.
Right. Yeah. So we've touched on the chair being there, the external, and then you also have an internal examiner, which we already mentioned.
hmm
It's someone from your institution, but they are outside your faculty. They do not submit a report on your dissertation. They are a bit of a wild card, an
hmm
unknown quantity, but read their work also. Look for connections with your own, and most importantly, don't take their critique of your work personally. My
hmm
internal examiner was really tough amongst the
And sometimes when they're pressing the same point repeatedly, that gets a little tough to
Yeah,
weather that.
yeah.
So you'll also have your committee members there,
Mhm.
and during your defense, you will be interacting with those people who have worked closely with you from proposal to final stage. These folks are already familiar
Mhm.
with your approach, your passion for your research, so they may ask you to elaborate on certain aspects of your work. Now, it's important to remember that they're there to celebrate your accomplishments.
Right.
No need to stress about their presence.
Mhm.
Always a good idea to prepare in advance and have a
Mhm.
good relationship with them before your defense, because you never know about how this may work down the road, your connection, your
Mhm.
relationship with them. That relationship may serve you very, very well in the future. As we've said before, they may be your future mentors,
Mhm.
co-authors.
Mhm.
So continue to have a good relationship with them.
Right. And
William, who else?
yeah, your supervisor. Yes, no question about that. And their job is to help you prepare well ahead of your defense. They'll help you with rehearsing your presentation. I had that experience, and I think
I
Dr. J,
did it.
you had that experience
Yes,
too.
yes,
But I think we have to set the record straight here. Every institution is so different.
that's right.
Every program runs their PhD, defense so differently, and but we are just sharing what we have gone through and then what we have also seen from, in fact, some other institutions also, because we have friends who have also had their PhDs and we were privileged to attend
hmm
their defense.
Right. So also at your defense, it's a public event,
Right.
so it's possible that individuals you're not familiar with may be there. So there may be other students
Hmm.
who are just beginning their PhDs. There could be master's students. We sat in. I'm
We
a
did.
first year. I
Yes.
sat in on a couple,
Hmm.
and that was kind of
Hmm.
terrifying, eye-opening. This is a great way to get yourself ready so you know what to expect. I've watched one woman be, kind of grilled about not having done a pilot study, and she had to have an answer for that, and I could see that she was sweating through
Did
that
you
thing.
use the word grilled?
I used the word
Yeah, I think she
grilled.
wasn't grilled. She
Oh,
was critiqued
she was,
a bit.
excuse me, yes, she was critiqued in a very constructive manner.
Right.
Okay, let's talk about the format of the meeting.
Yeah, which usually lasts 2 to 3 hours. But again, every institution is different. I've
Right.
attended one that was 1 hour.
Mm,
Hours. Mine was 3 hours, and I think yours was 3 hours
yes,
also.
yes.
Yeah. So typically begins with your presentation,
A slideshow.
a
Yeah.
slideshow, after the introductions, your slideshow presentation, which, again, depending upon the institution, could be 20 to 30 minutes long. I was advised by my supervisor that when you hit 25 minutes and beyond, it gets boring because it's only your voice. So it would be great to, go below 25, but you need to hit the 20s for sure.
Yeah.
Discuss with your supervisor, as we said earlier. They will, share with you what areas your presentation should cover or focus on, what you need to omit. You do practice run with them, hopefully.
Now, here's a question for you. Did you memorize a script or did you simply speak to your slides during your presentation?
I was going on the memorization route, but when I sent my slides to my supervisor, she said, no. You have a lot of text. We need some images. So from text to the images, then I chose not to memorize because I could speak to the images with the scholar's work, with the findings I had. So that was really good that I didn't have to memorize, but just talking through the text,
And
the images.
And I did the opposite. I decided that I would write a script and I would read it. And I practiced it a lot so that, in fact, I was making a lot of eye contact with the audience as I was doing my presentation. But my logic was, or my reasoning was that I have no control over what's happening for the rest of this defense. If I have 20 minutes that are within my control, where I know I'm confident in what how this is going to go, what I'm saying, I want that little bit of control.
You time.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Okay.
Yeah. So, and the dreaded questions.
Oh, yes.
Once you finish your presentation, then how to prepare for this.
And can you prepare for this?
Yeah.
Well, one of the best pieces of advice that we got was to use the comments your committee members have given you on your dissertation. So use those to anticipate the questions that they're going to ask you, because what they focused on in critiquing your dissertation were the areas of interest to them. So they may not ask you about those things. They may not ask you questions that you have prepared in advance, anticipating what they're going to say, but you will be ready, and you'll be surprised at how right you are.
Yes. And I mean, I think in a nutshell, you have to make a list of questions from those that Dr. J spoke about, and then from other sources as well, and even those defenses you got a chance to attend. What were some of the questions? Well, different research areas, everything, but some questions are really common, they're general. Make a list and practice those questions aloud.
Right. So there's lots of stuff online, lots of good resources. But we also took time to read the external examiners and internal examiners' recent work.
Right.
Because there may be an opportunity for you to raise their work and make connections between your work and their work during the Q&A when the opportunity comes up.
Yeah.
And you had some success with this, didn't you?
That's right. And you were there. You were at my
Yeah.
defense, and I was at your defense too. And there was this question I responded to, and I brought in the external examiner's recent work, and she was thrilled. In fact, for 5 to 10 minutes, she took the moment to talk about her work and saving me some time.
That's time you didn't have to think and sweat.
That's right. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, as Dr. J already said, go through online resources, choose questions that resonate with your work, write answers, and read your answers out aloud. We already said this. Get comfortable hearing your voice answering these questions.
Right.
Smooth out your answers so you can speak clearly without hesitations or stumbles.
And I think that that's really quite surprising. I remember when I first sat down with a list of questions and started repeating my answers out loud.
Mm-hmm.
And I was stumbling and bumbling my way through them. And I thought, oh my gosh, I can't sound like this during my defense. I
Yeah.
need to really
Mm-hmm.
practice so
Mm-hmm.
that I can speak clearly and smoothly
Yeah.
and address the issues without rambling and
Yeah.
going off in different directions.
And it's your moment. Who knows your work better than you? It's not
Mhm.
your supervisor or anybody there. It's you. You conceived the idea. You worked on it. It's you. So you really have to. And that's why we say that try to enjoy the questions.
Yeah. Yeah. And you may not be asked the questions
Yeah.
that you prepared. You may not be asked
I
a
wasn't
single.
asked a single one of them.
It's so interesting, but you feel prepared when you
Oh,
go through the
yes.
process.
Yeah.
And when you are answering questions,
Mhm.
you're having a scholarly conversation. So
Yes.
define your terms,
Mhm.
cite the authors you
Mhm.
have cited in your work,
Mhm.
make connections,
Mhm.
use the evidence from your study.
Right.
Take your time
Mhm.
when you're answering. So sound interested, be interested,
Yeah.
attentive, be smart and thoughtful. And what else?
Do not get defensive or irritated. No,
Mm,
don't do it. Just be smart, but don't
uh,
get irritated with a question you cannot answer or a question you may deem stupid. It's not stupid. There is
Right.
something good in there.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now, you go into this knowing that there are going to be difficult questions.
Yes.
What makes the questions difficult may be that they're long and confusing
Mhm.
or convoluted
Mhm.
or vague.
Vague.
Oh, the vague
Mhm.
question. You're wondering, what on earth is this person talking about? Well, what they're asking you to do is make connections, and
Mhm.
this is your job during the Q&A. So I can give you an example.
Yes.
During my defense, I was asked about using an autoethnographic voice and a post-human perspective. Now, the examiner didn't put that into question form, or didn't put it in more specific language. And at the time, I couldn't understand
Mhm.
what he was getting at. But now I know that he was asking me to identify a contradiction between qualitative and post qualitative, post human methods and to address that. He wanted to know how I resolved this issue.
Mhm.
So, in fact, I didn't answer the question very well at the time, but during the course of the discussion,
Mhm.
I figured that out and was able to address that issue in a
Mhm.
couple of different ways, a couple of different times. So, in the end, I did end up addressing the question.
Right, right. So you also get the second chance questions, right? Where
Right.
an examiner repeats an earlier question to offer you another try, or a second chance response, as you just said, where you realize you didn't answer a particular question well, and as you are responding to a whole new question, you use the opportunity to clarify, to add more. So there are always second chances. Also, you can ask for the opportunity to correct yourself, right? As I've already said here, be
Hmm.
confident in your knowledge. Assert yourself. We cannot stress this enough. It's your work.
Hmm.
Yeah. If need be, ask an examiner to clarify their question, or if you feel you need to clarify an answer, ask for the opportunity to do that.
You know, I have to admit that I was asked a very long, winding question that had multiple parts to it.
Mhm.
And I took, I think, 3 pages of notes and I still didn't understand what was being talked about. And I was embarrassed. I was just
Mm.
mortified that I couldn't identify anything in, that made sense to me in this long question. And I should have, but I didn't say, thank you
Mhm.
for your question. You had many interesting parts to it.
Mhm.
Would you clarify for me? Could you repeat?
Mhm.
Could you repeat that for me, please? That's you defending yourself, really,
Right.
so that you can be your best
Yes.
by asking for somebody to rephrase or restate the question,
Yes.
and then they'll be more succinct the next time around.
Yeah. And you'll get to the some of the easy questions in round
Yeah,
two, right?
yeah.
Like, what would you like to do next?
When you hear that, you know you're home free. The worst is over.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, something that we really want to stress is you need to expect the unexpected.
Yes.
You cannot control this, and things come up.
Mhm.
Um, I have a couple of examples for you. My supervisor said to me, the defense is a performance,
Yes.
but it's not only your performance.
Mhm.
Other members of the panel might feel the need to perform as well.
Oh, yes.
They might feel the need to impress their colleagues.
Mhm.
So don't be surprised if you find yourself listening to, as I was saying, a long-winded, convoluted question, divergent parts. You just say to yourself, aha, this is the performance.
That's right.
And please rephrase the question for me. And I was also at a defense where a candidate was asked an extremely personal question. It was related to his research, but the question felt so personal and inappropriate for this particular setting, the defense. And he became really emotional, and they needed to stop and have a break. And it was shocking. As an audience member, I was attending his defense to support as a friend. It was shocking. And, when I spoke to him afterward, he said that he was actually aware of the question. He had been told about it. He and his supervisor prepared for this question ahead of time. But in the moment, he became emotional and couldn't control his feelings. So I think that surprised him.
Yes.
And the audience wasn't necessarily aware that a background conversation had taken place. But it all ended well. I think he would say the unexpected piece for him was being caught by
Yes.
his emotions, being overwhelmed in the
Yes.
moment. So it happens.
Yeah. Expect the unexpected.
Yes,
Right.
absolutely.
It doesn't matter how prepared you are,
Yes.
physically, mentally.
Right.
Sometimes you can have some of those mental breakdowns.
Right.
We've been to other defenses where it was just pure celebratory,
Mm-hmm.
just thank you moment. We didn't get that.
Ours was rigorous.
I don't want to say we were grilled.
No.
Yeah, we had an educative conversation.
Yeah, and I think that's what surprised me was how much I actually enjoyed the conversation.
Right.
You are speaking with fellow scholars
Yes.
about your field, your experiences, and their experiences, and they will have good questions for you.
Talking about your work.
After one round of questions, there's a second round of questions. So tell me about this.
Yeah. So the second round of questions, again, everyone gets a chance to ask you questions. You respond, and there could be a third round as well, but typically two.
Right.
It's
And
done.
often, if they're happy with the way that you've answered the questions in round one, some of the panel members will say,
They
"Thank
just
you.
skip it.
I have no more questions."
Yeah.
That's music to your
Oh,
ears.
it's lovely. Yeah. So, almost finished, but guess what?
What?
There's always paperwork
Yes, there
to do.
is. Yep.
Yep.
So don't be surprised that as soon as you're finished your dissertation, you will have revisions. You will also have a number of documents to complete. You'll sail through them, no problem at all. But we do have a few last tips on preparation. This is my favorite thing from my wonderful supervisor, Fiona Blakey. She said, get some file cards. And on each file card, write the most important, theories, concepts, authors, things.
Findings.
Yes, that you want to speak about in your defense. And on your file card, put the title, put a definition, put a quote from a key thinker in the field, and then your contribution.
Right.
So I think maybe 15 of these file cards set up in front of me, on the desk in front of me, as I was doing my defense. What that meant for me was I had a security blanket. That information no longer was stuck in my head. It was in front of me. In
Right.
fact, I think I only looked down at a card on one occasion, but they were
Because you were
there
fully prepared.
and that was part of my preparation was
Yeah.
actually writing out those cards. But I felt good.
Yes.
I felt like everything I needed was in front of me, and I loved having those little file cards.
Right. So before we give you, these extra tips, we want to say that after the second or third rounds are done, then the chair will wrap up, right, the
Hmm.
defense. In fact, even before the chair wraps up, you may be asked to leave
That's
the
right.
room,
That's right.
and then the panel will discuss whether to pass you without any revisions.
And how often does that happen? Never.
Yeah, pass you with minor or major. Major means, whoa, probably you and your committee didn't cooperate. You and your supervisor didn't do a good work. And any serious supervisor is not gonna say, let's go defend it when they know you're not ready.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So you and the audience will excuse the panel. They decide, they call you back in after some 5 minutes and they break the news to you. And my friends, that's the time that you celebrate.
That's right.
Yeah.
I remember my supervisor opening the door and
Oh.
she paused. It
Oh.
was a little bit of an emotional moment when she said, "Congratulations, Dr. Burgess." And
Finally, you
it
get
was
to hear that
beautiful.
doctor
Yes.
that you worked so hard for.
And this is the moment. This
Yes.
is the moment when you
Yeah.
can now call
Mhm.
yourself doctor.
Yeah, but
So,
again, before you, write all this dissertation, you're gonna go through a proposal phase. But to do that, your program may have something, right, to guide you to write a good proposal, to write that good dissertation for you to get to the defense stage.
mhm,
What is the defense, the viva? It's just you being able to say that, okay, I did this. Orally sharing. It
mhm.
gives everyone the chance to see that actually you did the work yourself.
That's right.
Nobody did it. I mean, people hire, we know, we've read this today with artificial intelligence and all these things. Some work is getting done by artificial intelligence.
Mhm.
So now come stand and then tell us what you did. We ask you questions.
This is how they know that you
You did
did the
it, all
work.
right?
Yeah,
So don't
yeah.
be scared about this. As we said earlier, enjoy the process.
Right. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I was looking at an Australian study of
Mhm,
doctoral students' defenses, and they talked about their defense experiences. So
mhm,
this article is by Charlton and Smith,
mhm.
and they found the majority said they really enjoyed the experience.
I enjoyed mine.
Me too. Everyone had revisions,
I
and
had revisions.
I had revisions. Most had minor revisions.
Yeah.
So they're going to ask you maybe to move this
Mhm,
to that
mm,
place. Someone may say it was confusing in this
mhm,
part, but they're minor
mhm.
revisions. Nobody's asking you to rework your lit
Yeah.
review and stuff
No,
like that.
no. That's already done.
They in this study they were asked, the students were asked how they prepared in advance. The candidates all said that they read over their dissertations, and we did that as well.
Mhm.
Read your work, make sure you're familiar with it.
Yes.
A few spoke with other graduates about their experiences. A few said they just rested. But here's what they do in Australia that's really
Mhm.
interesting. They have a mock viva
Yeah.
or a practice oral exam. And the majority of students said this was a great way to prepare.
Mhm.
I think it's a great idea,
It
but
is.
it would be such a good experience. I
Mhm.
think we had a comprehensive portfolio
Yes.
defense,
Defense.
so
Mhm.
that was a really good practice
Yeah.
for the
A
defense.
segue to the whole thing.
So I think if you were going to try to do a mock Viva here,
Mhm.
you would have to find grads who are willing to work with you for this, and maybe in exchange, you help them
Yes.
with theirs. Or you can also pay a professional service. There are services who will do this for you,
Mhm.
but the cost is going to be about $2,500. That's
That's a lot of
a
money. Yeah.
lot of money.
And,
Yep.
I actually, in addition to my supervisor, I presented to my children
Mm,
and my partner.
yes. Yep.
They gave me feedback.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's
That
great.
was good. So, some key takeaways here is that your oral defense is not an interrogation or a debate. I think you really need to get that.
Yes. Yeah. So
Overcome this fear.
it's not a grilling.
It's a conversation,
Yes.
scholarly conversation
Yes.
about your own scholarship. Think of it as an enjoyable exchange between scholars in your field. Respect the process, my friends, and stay respectful in your answers too.
Right.
You will surprise yourself when you realize how much you have genuinely enjoyed the experience.
Yes.
Then
And
go
then,
out
yes,
and celebrate.
celebrate.
You have just earned the title doctor. It's a
And
big deal, isn't it?
it is absolutely a big deal, Dr. Ankoma.
Dr. Burgess.
Well, you have been listening to episode 12 of Demystified. This is the end of season 1, and we would like to sincerely say thank you for joining us. I'm Dr. Julianne Burgess.
And I am Dr. William Ankoma. Pop us a line. We would love to hear from you if you have enjoyed our company, and we believe you did. Email us at PhDemystified, or one word, at gmail.com. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, and bye for now.
Thank you for listening to Demystified. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe to stay updated on new releases. We love to hear from our listeners, so please reach out to us at PhDemystified@gmail.com if you'd like to get in touch. This podcast is hosted and produced by Julianne Burgess, PhD, and William Ankoma, PhD, in collaboration with Brock University's Makerspace Studio. Co-produced and edited by Serena Atella. Music is High on Loungin' by Wax Lyricist. This podcast is financially supported by St. Francis Xavier University.